Okay, so I wanted to do just a quick little tutorial on what I do for thumbnails. Um, so I have right here in Photoshop, I have just a blank t-shirt. Now, most websites these days are wanting bigger images, but you've got to, you got to balance size with speed. So you can't necessarily make them that big if they're going to load on websites. Um, sites like Amazon like your images to be more than 1,000 pixels. You can see right here, this is 1200 by, it should be 1200 by 1200. I can go to image and image size and it'll tell me 1200 by 1200. Okay. This is plenty big for any e-commerce site, plenty big for Amazon, plenty big for most other websites you're going to put it on. What I have over here, two layers. I have a little watermark of my logo, and I have that at 15%. So I don't want it to be the emphasis on the shirt, but I want it to be visible so that it kind of brands the shirt for me and makes people familiar with my name. On my other one, I have Family T-shirt Shop that runs up the side of the shirt here. I don't have one of those open right here now, though. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my image. In this case, my daughter really likes these poop emojis. I don't know why, but she does. So I drew one of these for her. This is one that I drew. It's a little rainbow poop. And I'm just going to copy that. And so I just took my selection tool, marquee tool, went around the outside of that. I guess you just click on one side and drag it to the other and it selects the whole thing. And then I'm just going to Control C to copy that. I'm going to come over and I'm going to Control V and paste it over my image. And then I'm going to hold my Shift and Alt key as I resize that, and that'll actually resize it a lot quicker. Now, as you can see, I think I've told you guys before, I don't print white ink. Now, if I printed white ink, this would be perfect just how it is. So I've got a couple options. One, I put it on a white shirt instead of a gray shirt. But let's say that I want it on a gray shirt. I've got to do a few things to make it look like it would print on a gray shirt. So one of those things I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my blending tool. And on this layer option right here, I'm just going to grab this little bar and drag it over. And the first thing that's going to do is it's going to take and get rid of all of the white. And of course, my computer's going to stop. Gotta love that. Okay. So we're plugged in now, so we're not going to die after it runs out of that last 12%. So blending option, I'm going to take this layer and just get rid of that. You can see if I go any further, it's going to start taking out other colors as well. And then I'm left with just the black and white outline. I just want to go enough to take away the white and not the yellow. Now the other option I have is to go and, let's see if I go the other way here. It's going to disintegrate the whole image here on this bottom one. The other option I have is I can go into this, and it's always going to be better to do this with the large image as opposed to with a shrunk image. You can have a lot more pixelating with a small image. Is what I would do is I'd come in here and I'd take my excuse me, I would take my, let's see what it's actually called, my magic wand tool, and then I'm just going to click on the white part of my image. I'm just going to delete each of those. Now, one of the problems I was noticing as I was taking out the white with that blending tool is that all the white wasn't coming out. And I'll go over there and I'll show you here in just a second that it wasn't all coming out. I was going to be doing something else to it as well so that that wouldn't quite matter as much. Okay, there we go. So we've taken out all the white. Mainly we had white going around the outside. We had some white on the inside here. I'd like to leave it as it is with the white. So I'm not going to save it like this, or if I was to save it, I would go save it as another copy and give it a different name, as I tend to like to keep the different variations. So if I come back in here and we start taking out a little bit of that white, you can see all the white around the edges here. And I really can't go that far before you can see here it starts taking out the yellow right here above that side of the mouth. And then once I finally get most of the white out, it starts pulling the yellow out. Right there, and I see I still don't have all the white out. So I step back just a hair and I say, okay, now the one thing that I was going to be doing with this is, because on digital t-shirt printing, you don't get a real, because I'm not putting a white underbase. Typically what digital t-shirt printing, if you're printing white, it's going to print the whole image with a white background. Then it's going to turn around and print the color over the white. That makes the color pop as well. You know, so you're not going to see the shirt color through the printing. And then in addition to that, you'll have the white around any white areas. So what I would do is I'd make a really light layer. So let's say we'll make this like 35%. And see, that minimizes a lot of that white going around there. And then what I'm going to do is, but you can also see the color of the shirt coming through, which is what actually happens when I print color on a colored t-shirt. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer. So I minimize the white, I duplicate the layer. I might have to fade it just a little bit more to get that color coming through, but you can see even with that, I'm still getting some of that white around the edges of my black on the image. So that's one way to do that. The other way, I'm going to go ahead and take the one that I just deleted all the white off of it. Sorry, my allergies have been killing me, and they've been kind of giving me a cough. Excuse me. And I, especially after sleeping all night, and my throat's a little bit raw this morning. So, anyhow, there's my other image. And so if I zoom in on this one, you can see that I do not have all that white there like I had here. The image, I think, is a lot cleaner. If you take the image from, if you do it to the larger image and then bring the larger image over, you're not going to see as much pixelating around the edges where you deleted the white had you shrunk the image and then turned around and deleted the white. So that's one of the reasons why I did the deleting of the white before I copied it and pasted it over here, so I'd have a lot cleaner image. And then in this case as well, I would turn around and I would increase the opacity of this so that, I had some of the bleed through of the white, of the gray shirt. I don't need a lot, but honestly, when I turn around and I print these shirts, the color's not going to be as vibrant on a gray shirt as it would be on a white shirt, and it's a lot because of the gray. And so that's about how I would do it, and then I would turn around. So what I do is I leave this layer called template.psd, so I can come in, I can play with it, I can move it, I can I can change out the watermark, I can take it on and off if I want. On some of them, I've actually put the name of the color of the shirt down here, athletic heather. It is a heathered shirt, and they call it an athletic heather, but it's gray shirt. I could just call it gray shirt if I wanted to, I guess. Um, Anyways, but that's what I do, and then I turn around and save it as what it is. Now, uh, I like, I really prefer to save these with names instead of just giving them numbers. A lot of websites like to find the name of the image, and the name of the image correlates with the name of the product, and then you have a lot more relevance and credibility. I think as far as crawlers and things go, and cataloging your item and giving it relevance. So in this case, I would call it probably rainbow poop T-shirt. Is what I would call it, and then I would go ahead and I'd upload this to my website. So that's using a colored image. I did actually bring in an "Oh Yeah Baby" here, and what I do is when I make these, then I turn around and I crop them so that when I go print them, I don't have issues with the sizing. So basically what I did is I picked my crop tool, and then I'm going to go around and I'm going to kind of fit that to it. And then what I'll do is I'll save this so that it's a final image that I can just pull up and print. Now, you notice I just cropped that and things are kind of aligned wrong. So I didn't actually align these when um, I didn't actually align these when I made them. So I'm picking the marquee tool here. I'm going to take off, just going to highlight part of that and Control X. I got to pick the layer, I guess. And then I'm going to cut it out, and then I'm going to repaste it. And the reason why I'm doing that is I'm going to try to center this just a little bit better. So when I cut it and paste it, it's going to align center right down the center of the width of the box here. So that "aw" is centered. And then if I do the same thing with "baby," and that'll be centered. And the reason why I did the two lines separately from the third line is because I technically need all three to be separate in order to center each of them. So this last one's by itself. So I'm just going to hold down my shift key and arrow over, and I can see how many spaces I have in between. So I pretty much can move it over 1, 2, 3 times. Technically, each time I arrow over holding the shift key, it should be as though I hit the arrow key 10 times. But in this case, it doesn't look like that's the case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Going back the other way without holding the shift key looks as though that's pretty centered. And then I'll go ahead and Control S to save it. And because I gave it different layers, it's going to default as a PSD file. I want it to be a PNG with a transparent background. And I'll save that. I'm going to actually flatten this. Now the PNG file will actually be flat, but what I'm going to do is just flatten that so I can just copy the whole thing over to my t-shirt here. And again, I'm going to hold Shift and Alt and click on the corner, and while holding the click down, the left click, I can resize that. So I'm holding down all three buttons, Shift, Alt, and the left click in order to resize that. Now I've got a couple options here. I'm going to try to fit this so that it looks like it's in the middle of the chest. It's a little bit below the collar. It's not sitting at the bottom of the shirt. I want it to kind of fill the shirt, but realistically, I've got to think about how it's going to print. My print plate is 12 inches wide, so I really can't print anything bigger than 12 inches wide. What size of a shirt is this? Well, this could technically be a boys or a men's shirt because you can see the sides of it are fairly square here, meaning that on most ladies' shirts, you can actually have a shorter sleeve, and there's a strong likelihood you'll have a little bit of tapering on the shirt that makes it a little bit more form-fitting. In this case, with this shirt, so I'm gonna, if it's a little boy shirt, it might fit on the shirt like this. If it's a men's small or a men's medium, it might fit on the shirt like this. If it's a men's 2XL, it might fit on the shirt like this. Um, I'm just going to kind of put it on there what I think looks good for a thumbnail. Now I've got an option. When I print with digital printing, I don't really get a true, really black. I get more of a dark gray. So on some occasions, I don't always go and do this, but on some occasions, I'll just bring this down a little bit, maybe 80%, maybe 75%, so that I don't have a real black text on the shirt. So technically, it won't ever come black to the person. It'll look black from a distance, but when you get close and look at it, it's actually a lot more like a dark gray is what it looks like. So I can just lower that again and then turn around and save the shirt. In this case, I'd go File, Save As. And in this case, I save it as a JPEG. And then I give it the name of it. Yeah, baby t-shirt. And so typically in my files, I'll have my AI file, Illustrator file of Aw Yeah Baby. Next to it, I'll have the PNG file of the actual image that I use to print, and then I'll have the t-shirt file like this of the actual t-shirt that I'll use as a thumbnail. So I usually have 3 images of every t-shirt, unless like this I've turned around and I've done model photos of particular shirts, then I might have 2 or 3 or 4 extra images that I've used that are the same name because I've got model images of them. So in this case, Aw Yeah Baby t-shirt, I save it. I've got a thumbnail. I don't usually ever save these at the highest without compression as a JPEG. I'll usually save it down around 7 or 6 to decrease the size of the image. Again, helps with page loading, speed up the page loading process. And I don't think around 7 that you're really losing a lot of the quality of the image. You're not getting a ton of pixelating or anything like that. I think you still have a really nice image. And they're not really complex images. So that's where I would save it. And then I've got thumbnails to put on my website or put on Amazon or whatever. So that is just a little bit on how I create my thumbnails. You can do them how you want, but this seems to work for me. It's a process that I'm really comfortable with. I've done so many of them that it's just really simple to have a template, have my image, overlay them, save them a certain way, so I know they're always in a particular file. They're always saved a particular way with a particular image and particular extension. I know all of my actual t-shirt thumbnails are all saved as JPEGs. All of my printing images are all saved as PNG files, and then all of my raw files are all AI files. And that really helps with just kind of keeping things sorted and consistent. I know what it is going to be when I see what type of file extension it is, and I know where to find it in most cases. So as long as I didn't put it in somewhere funky, I guess. So, but there you go. That's creating thumbnails for Etsy. Again, if I was doing these for Amazon, I should say, you don't put something like this, like your branding, on an Amazon file. You actually have to create it without that. Amazon likes tight images that don't have large borders. They like the product image to fill the screen, and they don't like supplemental stuff that is actually not part of the image. So you could use a model that fills the screen, or the part of it fills the screen without all the accessories, but you don't do layered images where you might show different views of a shirt within one image, or one folded and one flat, or anything like that. You just do a really plain image like this of the product, and that's what they like to see. This would be the front. Do one of the back, do one of the side, if you were going to do it that way. So this is how I would do it if it was for Amazon. this is how I do it if it's for my website or for Etsy, or if it's going to go on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. This is the type of image I want to use because I have that branding on there. So there you go.